conjunction with decisions regarding layoff and recall, job assignment location, and promotions, seniority will be a factor that must be taken into consideration, but is not in all cases dispositive. In circumstances when seniority is not controlling, management shall articulate its justification for not recognizing seniority as a controlling factor, but such decision is not grievable.
First of all, we appreciate you guys, coming around to trying to help us get seniority in the contract. The biggest concern from the committee in our caucus that was expressed to me is the not having some sort of appeals process. I mean, you're saying we can't grieve it, and there's a huge amount of trust in a sea of distrust. There's a huge amount of trust expected in a sea of distrust. I didn't create distrust, but it's there. And so when you, you know, we can make commitments all we want at the table, but there's nothing as certain as, you know, the ability to appeal or grieve something to get the air out. You know, so your reason for not honoring seniority in a particular situation will be articulated, and it will be spelled out. And but you know, who is that going to be given to? It's just going to be from a supervisor given to a worker, right?
Well, it depends on the circumstance here. Clearly, with respect to layoff and recall, you know, that probably is not going to happen just at the departmental level. That's going to come
That
up.
would go through us.
Yeah, it's going to go through personnel. Job assignment, location, that's probably more departmental. And promotion is probably works its way up for review, because somebody can't be promoted without upper management signing off, right?
Right.
Well, the concern is that, I mean, your information, Barbara, no offense, there's nothing wrong with what I'm about to say, but it's always based on what's given to you from the departmental director, right? I mean, because you're not in the field, you're not dealing with the nuts and bolts of.
Well, yeah, I'm not in every field every day, right? That's true.
So when someone comes to you and
Is
says,
that the insult alarm that went off?
Yeah. And the problem, you know, on our end is that, you know, it's still the worker against the machine. You know what I mean? Without having a fair day in court, where you're taking the word of your department director and probably just going to just consider that gospel to an extent, because that's you believe in the people that work here. And so having some sort of appeals process where it's put in before people that are not directly involved, or you know, just passing on the word from someone else, to me always seems to be like a fair concept. And you mentioned something about personnel board several times, right? Just have a personnel board here. Is that just purely for disciplinary matters, or is that for all kinds of stuff?
We've always used them for disciplinary appeals, but they can be used for other things.
And who sits on that? How many people are on that?
Every commissioner appoints somebody.
Okay. And how often are those people replaced, or is it just every time you
4 years.
Every 4 years they have to be, regardless?
Yeah, they have to. They're
The term
either,
when they come?
well, every time there's a new vote on the commission. So if a commissioner is reelected, they have to reappoint that person.
Okay, but
Or
they
they
can
can
reappoint the same person, what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So someone could ride on it for 12 years or whatever.
Right.
Well, I mean, you know, how are you guys feeling about having that, where if there was a dispute, if you do not believe that you can sell this, the concept of that we would grieve things that we feel are not fair, how about the matter coming before personnel board?
I don't think we're ready to subject the process to that kind of lengthy, complicated, involved procedure. I think that's why we suggested that if we build the track record of articulating why seniority was not honored, that we're in a position to share that with you and discuss that with you, and test whether or not the process works going into the next round of bargaining. And you say, there's a level of distrust. We're saying, give us this first contract time period to establish that we can be entrusted with that decision, and we'll prove it, in the way it's documented.
I understand that. It all comes back to what I said earlier, that we got to get the thing ratified, and so and you may not think that these rank and file members would know the difference, but they do. There's a lot of former union members from other places up north and so on and so forth. They see that and they know, what the heck is this? They come before the same person that denied me, this transfer or this position or this promotion or whatever is the same person who's putting something in writing to justify it when I disagree with it the whole time and I have no appeal, I have no ability. So that's what I'm concerned with. It's not a matter that I don't think that you're going to do the right thing. That's not my concern. My concern is going to get the contract ratified.
Well, I know you didn't mean offense by it, but I take it as.
But you're offended.
I'm offended on behalf of Barbara because I think that.
Well, let's ask her if she's offended.
No, I'm telling you what my point of view is, okay? I think when matters do move up from the departmental level to personnel for review, that they are carefully considered and the facts are gathered and there is an analysis of it. I think that is the nature of the personnel department. I've been dealing with them for a couple of years, and I'm hugely impressed with the people that work upstairs, that deal with the day-to-day issues of personnel matters. And not only that, Barbara answers up the chain of command, so she has to be in a position to be able to articulate those issues as well. So your comment, although you prefaced it by saying that it was not intended to be derogatory, I find it derogatory.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that you find something derogatory, but consider this. I've been sitting in meetings just like this for 3 years now, right? Roughly. Sitting across the table from this person who does not believe in seniority, just doesn't want it. It's the first time in 3 years or close to 3 years that I'm hearing, okay, let's give this a try. So do you really think it's unreasonable for me to think that if we agree to this language where everything is pretty much left into Barbara's hands, that after 3 years of hearing how she doesn't believe in seniority, doesn't want seniority, that we're going to get a fair shake? I don't think that's a unreasonable statement to make or a far-fetched problem or hang-up to have when, if she had been neutral all this time, or just the first time it came up, and she says, yeah, it comes before me, and we'll look at it, and we'll sit down, and we'll figure out what's fair, But given the history that I have, you've got time with the people upstairs, and you say you're impressed, and that's great and everything. I'm not so impressed with the time that I've spent with Barbara on the subject of seniority only. She's a nice lady and everything else, but as far as her views on seniority, I don't think we see eye to eye. And the language you're proposing is kind of just basically saying it's going to be left up to Barbara DeSimone.
Well, when we decided during the break to listen to what you had to say about it and to go out on a limb, I think our expectation was that we might have a limb cut off by upper management or the board, but we didn't expect it to be cut off by you.
Well, I don't expect to cut off anyone. I'm just trying to get a contract. And so all I'm asking is that if you have an appeals or a personnel board in place, you mentioned something about it being too complicated or something. Or what do you mean by that?
Well, getting the personnel board together can take weeks and weeks. Because if they meet, somebody from the county attorney's office needs to be there too. They only have one person that will do the personnel board, so it's not like I can select any one of them, so I have to get on, check his calendar. All the members of the personnel board have other jobs. At least 4 of them do. You know, it's a
public
it's a pain in
meeting,
the
there's a
neck.
notice
Yeah,
requirement, there's a
public
reporting,
meeting.
you got the clerk's office that has to be involved. There's time and expense associated with doing it.
I can have a grievance hearing within a few days. And if the case has merit, it moves along. If it doesn't, I shut it down.
How are you
I
gonna
shut it
do a
down.
grievance? There's all the different steps.
I'm talking about a grievance hearing where I am involved. I guess whatever step that would be, step 2. If we have a grievance hearing that I'm involved, and if you want to put into the contract that any issues over seniority immediately go to step 2, that saves time, it's more direct. I'm a straight shooter. I'm as fair as they come. And if I sit down and I smell something really, really rank involved with someone being stepped on, then I'm going to give a pretty swift decision, like saying we need to move forward with this. And if I see that it's a case without merit, I shut it down. You know, I just say, I'm not wasting any more time on this. You are clearly not qualified as a person that's saying that's more qualified. Give it up, pal. We got to go home because I got too much stuff to do. I think that's a quicker, swifter process and more efficient than, you know, waiting for a personnel board. I didn't know it was as complex as you described it. I thought they met regularly, pretty much every month.
Only as needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
I just say one thing, Jack.
sure.
A lot of this trust came a lot from in facilities in the county, because facilities goes throughout in every building in this place. When they did the resizing in facilities, they sure didn't follow seniority, and they sure didn't give it to the best guy that was on down the line, because the 2s, the 3, the 4 are not qualified to be in the position they're in. And if we had a place where we could prove that, you had a 20-year man for electricity put as a 1, a 20-year man for AC put as a 1. You had a 3-year man put as a 2 that everybody in the county he's worked for, but he would kiss the man upstairs as Patooey.
But he had nothing to do with it.
But I'm just saying,
Who is
all these positions were put there, and the distrust games. I had a master's license. I had a inspector's license. I'm a 1. I'm not allowed to even put that outlet in. The distrust. If I had a place to go back to say, hey, you're wrong, but I didn't have nothing, and you don't think you should have somebody do that? I think you should. And I think this county will work a lot better.
Well, if that was the case, it should have been brought to my attention at the
You know
time.
what? You know what they were told? We asked to go to you. We asked to go to personnel, and they said personnel is washing their hands of facilities on this whole matter. That's what we were told,
No.
and that came from our upstairs managers, Mr. Folke.
I do understand the
Because I
value.
never wash my hands of any
I don't know.
He's not saying that it's true, he's saying that's what they were told.
Yeah.
So
I
what are they supposed to do?
understand the great value of someone being required to sit down and articulate their response. Because when someone starts typing something and they start realizing, oh, I'm going to look like a real idiot if I pass this thing up, that truly has value. I get that. Okay? But, and chances are that won't move forward. But to sell this contract, you know, the whole thing, you know, and I don't know if you've even reached out to Hernando or Citrus or any of them. I suggest you give them a call if you haven't. Talk to his HR director, Sherry Anderson up in Citrus, BOCC, or you can call Sam Himmel, the superintendent of schools at Citrus County School Board. Call Cheryl Marsden from Hernando County. They will tell you, John, about my reputation. They may not agree with me all the time, but I'm as fair can be. And when I disagree with something, it's because there's damn strong merit to it. And we don't have a whole lot of grievances anymore. I mean, there's a growing pains, you know, where if people start wanting to know where you stand on something. To me, grievances dropping down to almost nothing is a good sign. Because the employer is saying do the right thing, and the union is telling the member do the right thing. And so you know, I'm encouraging you to reach out to these people. They have nothing to do with this local union, nothing to do with me. They may not say I'm the best guy in the world, but they will tell you I'm fair, and they will tell you that if I move forward with the cases, because there's some very strong reasons for that. And
Yeah,
so,
what's the size of their bargaining unit? Aren't they smaller? A lot smaller?
well, Hernando's 400 roughly. Okay, Citrus BOCC is around 3. Yeah, they're smaller, but I don't know.
But you're saying they start out with a whole bunch of grievances.
I'm saying with
So-
Hernando, with the prior contract and with another business agent, there was a lot more grievances being processed. And I honestly
And we
believe
have
that.
2 and 3 times more, you know, what they have. I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
I just don't believe there's gonna be a lot of grievances if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, is the point I'm trying to make. And the only point I'm trying to make is that I don't think you should be afraid of tying something to a grievance procedure, because you're gonna get a fair shake. And if you don't believe you're gonna get a fair shake, I'm asking you to reach out to other people and see what they got to say about me or this local union. I'm inviting it. And the only thing I need that in there is to sell it to these guys. Listen, guys, we have the trigger to pull on a grievance if things aren't done the right way. And I can win over, you know, enough votes to get this thing ratified.
John, let's put this into perspective. Let's look at where we've come from and the compromise that we've made today and offer it up to you. Our previous language said, an employee's seniority shall be taken into consideration only for the limited purposes of application of the county's retention matrix. Okay, that has been our position.
Come leaps and bounds, you know, I get it. You come leaps and bounds, right?
I've written a paragraph here that
Well,
uses the
disclose,
term
man.
seniority 4 times in it, okay? And shifts the burden to the county not to recognize seniority.
Oh, you want me to demonstrate how far we've come from our initial proposals? That's kind of futile, isn't it? I mean, you know how far we've come from our initial proposals, and I know how far the county has come, and that's fantastic. And I'm telling you, it's so close, I can almost, you know, smell it. I can almost taste it.
Well, let's write up this language that we've proposed so that it's clear what the proposal is. And in that context, see whether or not it's something you're prepared to submit to your membership for a vote.
As proposed, without any.
We're not
without any appeals.
afraid of submitting it for a vote. We've got to submit it to the county board for a vote, okay? We have to sell it on our side too.
I understand that.
And you
Probably a
know,
lot easier to sell when you guys are you know, endorsing something. I would imagine any more than it's the same way on my side. So I'm endorsing something, saying, hey, you know, it's not everything we wanted, but it's good. It's a good first start, good first contract, and grow and move from here. Let's get it done. And I'm sure you guys have that same influence. I don't know. And you've been entrusted to negotiate a contract. So if these people are going to shoot down everything that you agreed to, then why the hell aren't they here? And I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to trust you because that's the reason why they sent you here. Right?
Yeah, but the direction we have is, we're not interested in you know, really
You can't
nailing.
even say the word.
But, yeah, I promise with that word, yeah, I did.
Didn't you come from New York?
Yeah,
Wasn't there
but
unions
I
in
saw how the
Wasn't
union
there-
screwed up New York.
The unions didn't screw up New York. Wiener, the guys like Wiener are the ones that are screwing up New York.
There's
Oh,
always
yeah,
somebody,
really?
there's always somebody on strike one day.
Screwed up New York. I didn't know New York was screwed up.
But anyway, you know, like I said earlier, you know, we're trying to go for a performance-based
Well, I
organization.
understand.
That's the direction I have, you know, in terms of our evaluations and everything else. We're trying to move the whole organization that
Well,
way.
then how about we do this? And like Jim said, you're gonna reduce it to writing.
Yeah.
We'll put it across the table, and we still have other things
Yeah, we
to
do.
work on.
but let's, you know, we've come a long way just today on this particular point. Let's not talk ourselves out of it.
No,
Let's
no,
at least get to the point where we
solve
draft
the
it
way.
and do it and talk about it. See if we could,
All right, can we move on to something else then?
sure.
Is there anything that we propose that you anticipate some movement on since the last time we were here? We're having some discussion. How about this, Article 42, employee performance evaluation? The last I heard that we had worked on some revisions, and it was like looking close to a TA, and then on 523 you said, still like the language okay with it, but it's pending the wage article. And I didn't necessarily understand that anymore now than how the wage article would affect the employee performance evaluation. And I'm sure you explained it to me, but you can remind me of how they connect.
Well, because your performance evaluation qualifies you for a wage increase at some point, right? We're not gonna give wage increases to people that are not performing.
Well, our
We're gonna give
proposal,
it to people that are performing.
our proposal was, for wages was just an across the board, cost of living increase as opposed to a merit increase program. And that if you're gonna have a merit increase program, then, that would have its own set of, procedural rules, I guess. Where this is just purely about evaluations, when they're gonna be given. It doesn't, in other words, if we're gonna talk about merit raises are gonna have their own criteria. And I'm sure they're gonna be based on the evaluation that's given. But this proposal is just purely about the mechanics of the evaluation.
So married to the wage provision and thinking about the term of the agreement, and the fact that we have a county administrator who is strongly in favor of performance-based increases, and that there'll probably be some time necessary to refine what that system looks like. If we have a 2-year agreement that starts this coming October the 1st, the first year, I think we would be amenable to an across-the-board percentage wage increase, and then prepare for and implement a performance-based system that would kick in the following year. So that's plenty of time to work out the details on what that system looks like, without having to do it before we got a contract to submit for ratification.
Let me change the subject, sorry to interrupt you. Are they still considering a coding study, Barbara?
Yeah, we're doing it now,
Doing it right now? Okay, thank you, sorry.
yeah.
All right, and that, we're not saying let's delay until we have that figured out and in place. We're saying let's commit to that being, there'll be the language in the contract that would talk about it being in place for year 2 of the contract.
Well, on the proposal that I see for Article 42, I did write, employee performance evaluations are not used to determine wage increases. And then we talked about the same thing on 523, I would, I think it's 523, that if there was going to be a merit increase program, and at that point in time, we wanted to tie it into the employee performance evaluations, then that would invoke subsequent bargaining if we didn't have that all figured out now, which, like you just said, it's just too much to bite off. It can't possibly all be figured out prior to us wanting to get this thing done now. So maybe amending the proposal to say employee performance evaluations are not used to determine wage increases unless, at the end of that, unless subsequently bargained or agreed upon.
I want to nail it down more than that. I want to say that it is going to become a performance system in the second year of the contract.
So employee performance evaluations are not used to determine wage increases in year 1.
Yeah, we would have a wage provision that talks about a percentage increase for year 1.
All right. But wording it that way would say, assuming that we have a 2-year agreement, employee performance evaluations are not used to determine wage increases in year 1, leaves it open in year 2. And then we can get this thing agreed to.
Well, that's part of it. We want more language regarding year two.
Okay, well, if we don't know how the, what is it that you want?
Well, you know, it's funny, I was gonna ask, what's the purpose of this article? Really?
I
What
thought
are
the
you
purpose
looking
on
for?
your end, I mean, I don't care, you want to withdraw it. It's your proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering.
I mean, it provides that the employees will be given a copy of it, so if you don't give them a copy of it, then they
Well,
are
it's in-
violated.
It's in the,
There's a line in there that I don't really care for. I thought that's the reason you proposed it. Performance evaluations may not be grieved or appealed. You know, that's what I thought you wanted. And in absence of that, I could
Well,
raise
that's
the
in the
argument
career
that
service
until we
manual.
can grieve it.
That's in the career service manual, so wherever it's in here, you know, that would come into play.
Say that again, whatever's in the career service manual,
Yeah, if it's not, if the article is not in here and it's in the career service manual, and that says it's not grievable, then,
okay, I would tell you that if this line is not in there, and I'm just tipping my cards, if this line's not in there, you can probably expect a grievance from somebody saying that they got an unfair evaluation regardless of what your career service system says, especially when it's connected to wages. And see, that's where the snag comes in. It's okay that you want to evaluate somebody, and it's okay, and it's swallow hard when I say it, that we can't grieve it or appeal it, because we do have some language that says that we can, the employee can sit down with the business agent and the personnel director, and once again, you can explain your case, and we can tell you how we think it's wrong, and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we don't see eye to eye, the employee's stuck with the evaluation that he disagrees with. Okay, that's the worst case scenario. But now when you start putting a monetary value to it, and you start saying, Doug, I'm not giving you a raise because you tanked your last 3 evaluations. And I said, well, my last 3 evaluations were wrong. I was falsely accused of something. And well, I don't care. I mean, sorry, but I said, well, I didn't even have my day in court. I couldn't even appeal the thing. I couldn't even grieve the thing. And I'm stuck with bad evaluations that I believe that I know they're unfair. And now you're telling me I can't get a raise. It changes the dynamics when you attach money to it. And that's the reason why we put on there evaluations are not used to determine wage increases if we can't grieve it. If you're going to start attaching performance evaluations to monetary increases through a merit increase program, then we have to have the ability to grieve it because you're affecting someone's ability to earn a living or affecting their wages. See what I mean?
Well, we'd like to get a 2-year contract. We're prepared to spend money in year 1 without regard to performance. But some of the money that we spend in year 1, we want to buy a performance standard for year 2.
But you don't have.
We don't want to have to come back and, spend a lot of time on it. We understand you want to look at it, you want to have your input on it. But, our starting point right now is, and we're prepared to come off of it just a little bit to put some language in to indicate that you have input on it, is right now our language says the criteria used to manage performance is a managerial prerogative. I know you don't like that. I know you want input on it. We're prepared to give you some input on it. But I don't want to hold it up. I don't want to spend another year negotiating the terms of the employee evaluation form. And I don't think you do either.
No, I don't. But I also can't accept the fact that, let's just say hypothetically, you want to go back the last 5 years for an employee's evaluations to determine whether, to get a raise or not, okay? Whether you're going to qualify for a 2%.
It's never worked like that.
Oh, where does it go? Just
It goes 1 year at a time,
Okay.
and you don't go back to the previous year.
What about when a person is up for a promotion? You don't go beyond 1 year prior to consider them for a
We
promotion?
look at whatever's in the personnel file, disciplines, or whatever the language is in the eval. And they always have a right to put a rebuttal in their file, if they
Yeah, that's
disagree with it.
a feel-good document. You got a complaint, write it and we'll submit it. Thanks. If anything changes, nothing changes.
But whoever reads it, whoever reads that file reads both sides of the story.
Again, I thought we spent enough time on this employee performance evaluation proposal so that we kind of have an agreement, and the biggest hang up now is that in year 2 of the agreement, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on employee performance evaluation for year 2, but what I do want to spend time on is seeing how the county is going to go about doling out increases based on an employee performance. I mean, that's my business, how could it not be? When you're going to just in year 2 of the contract say that, listen, we've got this new system for who gets raises and who doesn't. And I have to have not just input, it's got to be bargaining over. It's a mandatory subject of bargaining, as far as I'm concerned. You're going to be giving raises based on certain criteria that has to go through the exclusive bargaining representative. So we have a right to invoke. I remember you even saying that. And probably anticipate I'm going to invoke impact bargaining over the new system for giving raises.
Well, have you looked at a new system?
Do you have your system figured out for year 2 of this contract, or how you're going to be giving increases?
We're in the process of changing, and we discussed this I think last time, the time before, changing from doing the evaluations on anniversary to doing everybody
Fiscal year.
fiscal year.
And that's what the
And then we changed the form so there's goals in there. What we have not determined, and like Jim said, we're anticipating an across the board, not merit or performance-based increase for fiscal year 14, and then at the same time, at the beginning of the fiscal year, setting everybody's goals so that at the end of that fiscal year, we'll have hopefully good solid information to base whatever merits we do the following year. So we're talking about fiscal year 15.
15.
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
Well,
But that's our goal. I don't know how, or even what pot of money we're gonna have for fiscal year 15.
and that means everything,
That's-
because if you're
I'm not, I barely know I can barely guess what's gonna happen in October. The following year, I don't know.
okay, so you can't specifically say how this at this point in time how the merit evaluation program even works. It's still being formulated, right?
Well, because we don't know what money we're gonna have. But we know it's gonna be based on goals and whatever
No,
they're
but you don't know what
achieved.
the goals. They all haven't been defined yet. The thing is not. I understand.
It's gonna be right after, between October, right around October, November.
But my point is, right now, today, it's not developed, completely developed yet. Regardless of how much money is attached to it, the system itself is still being fleshed out and ironed out and worked out.
Mhm.
And then there's the huge component of how much money is attached to it, which
Right.
changes everything too, because if it's, to be quite honest, if it's, you score this, if it's based on a score, as an example, if you attain this score, you get a 1%. If you attain this score, you get a 1.125, and then a 1.25, and it's just chump change, peanuts. I mean, it's probably gonna have less importance to us than if there's bigger gaps between those goals, because now it's like, wait a second, man, I was 2 points shy of this next increment, and I only got a 1% instead of a 4% theoretically, or as an example. And so the amount of money that's attached to it, again, that's the second huge piece of the puzzle. And the reason I'm saying all this is that you guys don't even have the system set up just yet, and you don't know how much money is attached to it. So we can't just go in blind with agreeing with a blanket agreement
Well,
that we're
we
going to
know-
accept whatever.
what we were going to do, we just don't know what, I can't tell you what Bruce's goals will be.
Well, I understand, that's a very broad
That's
base.
where we're at.
That's a very
But we
broad,
know at what point they will be set.
I understand that. But that's a huge unknown. I mean, the only thing you do know is that you're gonna have a merit-based system. That's about the only thing you can say with certainty. You can't give the specifics because they're not even defined yet. And I understand that that's what you wanna do. There's no dispute over that. So if we're looking at a 2-year agreement, I mean, I had the understanding that we're looking at a 2-year agreement, and in year 2, we would open up the economic portions of it. After we would kick that around.
But see, what we want to do is set the goals in a couple of months. So we're not waiting until year 2 of the contract to set the goals. Yeah,
Set
but
the
that
goals
would,
whenever you want.
so you don't care about the goal setting, it's what we do with whether or not they achieve the goals.
Next year, I guess about this time, I'd like to be sitting down and bargaining over wages. And at that point in time, you're gonna say, well, union, don't you remember, it was just a year ago, we talked about this merit evaluation. Okay, well, I understand that, that's what you want. You got any better, clearer idea of how it's gonna be rolled out? Well, yeah, we spent.
Well, it would have been rolled out already, because it's already been, everybody's been trained on it, so there's no secret how we're gonna do it. It's just that the goals have not been set yet, because that will be done, as I said, October and November. But all the departments know what they're gonna do. And some may have started discussions with their people, but it would be a little early,
I understand all that.
so.
The point I'm trying to make is that we want to bargain over wages next year. And I understand your proposal, you already come out of the gate telling me what it's going to be about. It's going to be about a wage performance system, and I get that. Do I agree with that? No, not right now. I don't even know what the heck it is. I may agree to it next year when you show it to me, and you reveal it to me, and you spell out exactly how much a person's getting for meeting what the points is and what it takes to get the points, and all that good stuff. But we'll worry about that next year. This year we're talking.
As long as a year from now, you don't go back and say, well, I don't like those goals that you set in October, because then what do we do? That's something that, I mean, I don't know how we correct that.
We bargain. You have a right to develop any system you want, okay? And I have a right to bargain over the impact of that.
But you need to bargain when we're actually doing it. Yeah, I
But
mean,
you're telling me you can't give me all the factors of this system because you don't have them right now. So how can I possibly
define
bargain over
factors.
something that you
Define
can't even define?
factors. Define factors. We gave you the form. Every individual, 2,000 people are gonna get,
How much money? You don't know.
well, the money part is the part I don't know, because I don't have a crystal ball.
I understand that. And the money
Yeah.
part is what we want to bargain over.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, I don't want you to say a year from now that the whole basis for the evaluation, that you're gonna dispute that, because then there's no way of going back and resetting the goals. If you're 9 months into the fiscal year, you can't go back and say, well, you should have attained these goals. You know
I
what I'm saying?
believe that
can't-
you as an employer has the managerial right to set goals. Okay?
Okay.
You
so
have a
you're
right
not
to
gonna
set goals.
dispute that. Okay.
I have a right as a representative of the exclusive bargaining agent to determine how much money is going to be paid and how it's going to be paid to the members in the form of wages. I have a right to bargain over that.
Right.
So you do your thing, I do my thing. You can't tell me how much money is involved, and so I can't give you a response of whether I like it or not.
Yeah, and that part I understand. That, I mean, because I don't know if, we're looking at possibly 3% this year. you know, I don't know if it's gonna be more or less next year, and I don't know how we're going
I
to be
understand all that,
applying
and
it.
you probably can understand my positions, I can't agree to something
Yeah.
for year two, that we have to open up the contract for wages in year two.
Mhm.
It's just what we have to do.
All right, let's take a break for a minute.
I need one. Well, status quo is hard to define when it's different in all different places. And I think
We have a procedure to deal with that. If you think there's a violation of the status quo.
You know, you're just so contradictory when part of you is saying, I can't agree to such a broad-based proposal, such as past practices, when you need to figure everything out the way it's going to be before we agree to it. Now you're saying today, oh, let's just have a free-for-all all across the county, whatever happens, happens, and then we'll worry about a procedure to enforce the status quo. Which one is it, Jim?
Well, here's what it is. It's when we get a contract and we meet with the supervisor, we will say, here's how you have to adapt the way you run the day. Here's the contract language that has been agreed to. We don't like it any more than you like it, but this is what has been agreed to, and it's a uniform process. We have one union to deal with. It's easier to have one rule than to have 30 rules. That's what we're going to say to them. That's the way contracts get implemented the first time there's a contract.
Okay, but that's not what you're proposing. You're proposing is, listen, guys, I know you've taken lunch breaks from 30 minutes to 45 to 50 minutes to 55 to 60, but you know what? Throw that all out the window. Now you're going to be forced to have every single employee take a